Alright, Angry Eq2 back with yet another tour of Norath. Oh, haven't seen this guy in a while. Doom Squall! How's it going, Doom Squall? Anyways, today we're in the Thundering Steppes and we are going to tour a lovely little dungeon known as the Ruins of Varsoon. And since we're doing Varsoon, why don't we talk a little bit about the what in the hell is that? Interesting. We'll talk a little bit about the lore behind Varsoon. There's not much, although he is a fairly significant figure in the history of Norath, but first, let us enter. If I can get my mouse on it, there we go. The Ruins of Varsoon. Varsoon was a talented mage. If I remember correctly, he was the first mage in the history of... I don't remember the name of the order. It started with an A. The Aegisic Order or something like that. Anyhow, he was the first mage in the history of that order to complete to solve all 7 conundrums on his first try, and he then went on to prove the existence of the 8th conundrum with what was called the Yellow Flame. I wish I could give you more details than that, but that's pretty much all they really gave us. Something about earthen lore from fire or something. Anyways, he became a renowned planar thaumaturge, and he went on to research the secret of immortality. Supposedly, his goal was not just to become immortal himself, but to discover the method to obtaining immortality and sharing it with any who asked. A lot of his past is shrouded in mystery. He traveled the plains as a planar thaumaturge, and oops, don't forget you can subscribe. And he went with a assistant who didn't go with him all of the way. Whatever it was he found at the end of the journey, we never learned. The journey took 40-some years, and the assistant was so peeved when he found out that he quit the very next day and stopped taking notes. So, yeah. But anyways, Varsoon became a lich. But that's not all there is to the story, because Varsoon is correctly titled the Undying. As you can see here, we've got some... Oh, look! A living prisoner. This is his little stronghold out in the Thundering Steppes, by the way. Shouldn't get so caught up in the lore that I forget to mention where we are. His servants still patrol. Notice they're all undead, waiting for the Master's return. The Master has been gone for a long time. Where he is, they don't know. But at some point, there was a war with the Bloodsabers outside of Kinos. The Bloodsabers is a cult of worshippers of the god of disease, Protoxylus. And they attacked the city. They laid siege to the city. And at the head of their ranks was a mage, a mysterious mage, that they only referred to as the Undying. Eventually the mage started calling himself Varsoon the Undying, but the citizens of Kinos didn't know if this was something that he did because he actually was Varsoon, or if he was just taking the name because of the fear that it evoked in his victims. They lost the war. Kinos won. A body was found of a mage that was covered in hideous burns, but fire was not the cause of his death. The cause of death was apparently a single arrow to the heart. At least that's what they assumed until they realized he was still breathing. One of the priests from the Temple of Life, I think it was a high priest, or maybe it was the head priest, I'm not sure which, but anyways, one of the important personages of the Temple of Life performed a ritual with several lesser priests and reduced his body after something like 12 or 16 hours of continuous ritual. They reduced his body to ash, which, rather than scattering it to the winds, they gathered it up, put it in a small urn, and sealed it away in a mausoleum. When asked why they did that, They simply said it was the one surefire way of preventing a lich from returning to life. There are some notes that you can find scattered around that talk about some of his experiments. None of them are too terribly in-depth, but from what I've gathered from little bits and pieces that I've gleaned both from the game and from sources on the internet, which of course the internet would never lie, but anyways, he did obtain immortality. However, there were some side effects. Being a lich was apparently something that he tried to do in order to erase those side effects. The source wasn't really clear, so I couldn't really tell you exactly what went on there. I just know that he was not the lich. The lich was, I guess you can consider it like a fragment of him. Varsoon is actually, well, you'll find out in a moment. But really, that's what we know about Varsoon. He studied necromancy too. He became a powerful necromancer. Moderately powerful anyways. He was never, as far as I know, he was never one of the big necromancers such as Miragul, another major figure in the history of Norath, who, strangely enough, doesn't have a whole lot of lore behind him, at least not in this game. In fact, I can tell you what I know about him right now. Look, here's the Tome of Life. The Tome of Life. I'm not really giving you much of a running commentary on the locations of the zone because, well, they're basically just various rooms. That's the room with weavers in it, but also the Tome of Life is found there. We've got clay guardians over here in these hallways. Down that way we've got some stewards and wine testers and such. Down here is where they create the golems, and the aptly named creator is in charge of this little operation. Let's take a peek, see if he's there. Yeah, there he is, the creator, his skeleton. Not much more to say about him. I mean, like I said, they're just small little rooms. Golems and skeletons in them. But, as I was saying, Miragul. Miragul was, well, he was a necromancer, but also some of the lore I've read kind of hints. It doesn't come right out and say it, but it kind of hints that he was, you could consider him the father of necromancy among the erudites, which doesn't really make sense to me because one of the reasons he had to leave his home was because he was studying the forbidden art of necromancy. Now that would imply that there are necromancers around, because how could they have forbidden the study of necromancy if no one had ever discovered it yet? So that's a little interesting. But yeah, Miragul was a necromancer, a very powerful one. He's still around today. He was also a dick. Meanwhile, quick pause on the narration. Look, the Tome of Death. And a book that I can mark, so I'm going to mark my name on it. Varsoon sucks ass. Signed, Roas. Anyways, the Tome of Life and the Tome of Death. So, as you can see, he was studying immortality here as well. And apparently something went very, very wrong. And I'm guessing those burns had something to do with it. But, back to Miragul. He was a very powerful necromancer, probably more powerful than any necromancer that ever came before or has ever come after. He joined with the Ethernauts. Think of them as a plane-traveling A-team. All right, they were awesome, but they're legendary heroes who faded into legend and myth, and no one knows what happened to them. Well, I do, but I'm not going to tell you right now because that's not the point. He was a member of them for the time. He also liked to study the planes. He has his own planar shard. As I said, he's a dick. And pretty much all of the erudites of Keul and Peniel are terrified of him. They do not want to draw his wrath. I, for one, am not afraid of drawing his wrath because, well, I draw everybody's wrath. I am probably the single most wanted person in all of Norath, and even outside of Norath. I mean, let's see, the Awakened Legion hates me. Well, the Ring of Scale, they would hate me if there were any left. Zek hates me. Anashti Sul, well, we kind of have a love-hate relationship. I mean, yeah. She doesn't like most of my my personae, but she loves Misty because Misty's awesome, and everyone loves Misty. Even people that hate Misty, they love Misty. They hate to love her, but she's just awesome. That's not the point. Marigold did a lot of planar studying. He collected a lot of artifacts. He's still a major figure today. He eventually became completely terrified of his own mortality, and that's why he chose to turn himself into a lich. He made a menagerie. Actually, I do want to talk a little bit more about Marigold real quick, because as with so many things, his journey started off with the best of intentions. He wasn't exactly what you'd call a model student. He was a good student in that he was accomplished, but he also, I don't know what the name of the order he studied at was, but he had been breaking their rules for well over a year when one of the single most important erudite personages died. That would be Arid. It was the day after Arid's passing that Miragul, his thoughts turned to the art of conjuration. Now, up until this point, it was traditional. It was dictated by tradition. There we go. That's what I wanted to say. It was dictated by tradition that students would devote themselves to one and one only of the three disciplines. Those being summoning, sorcery, and enchantment. Miragul hid the fact from his masters that he had been secretly studying and mastering all three. He considered himself the true master because he didn't limit himself to just one discipline. But that ambition is also what leads to his, well, I'm not going to say what leads to his downfall because he hasn't fallen down yet, but it led to his metamorphosis into an asshole of the absolute premier caliber. As I said, he started to turn his thoughts towards the art of conjuration. And he wondered if instead of summoning bits of ash and dirt with little more intelligence than the dirt that you're standing on, if it would be possible to conjure the spirits of the dead and draw upon their wisdom if indeed the dead are truly wise as it was supposed. Now, this part, I've mentioned before the contradiction in lore. This is the same piece of lore that kind of hints that he is the father of necromancy. In fact, what he was thinking right there kind of implies it. It's implying that necromancers were unable to actually successfully contact the dead. If he's wondering if it's possible, obviously, it hasn't happened yet. So maybe the only bits of necromancy that had thus far been successful were things like animating bones or creating zombies. Well, he thought that if you could contact the spirits of the dead and draw upon their wisdom, his people wouldn't be robbed of the guidance of great figures such as Arid. What more could he share with his people if death hadn't snatched him away? And that's what got him started on the path, and he kept studying everything. I mean, he basically wanted to know it all. He wanted to know it all. Even his necromancy, he wants to draw upon the wisdom of the dead. He wants knowledge. Well, he obtained some knowledge, but then by the time he was done finding the answers that he sought, he himself was an old, frail man, and that terrified him. So he began to feverishly search for the secret of immortality, and finally he decided to make himself into a lich, which is what he did. That's Miragul in a nutshell. I imagine that if one were to play EverQuest 1 and do quests involving him, there's probably more lore to be found. I haven't, so I cannot draw upon that lore. There are repositories of text dumps out there, but I didn't find any that really talked about those quests. So, I'm kind of disappointed about that. I'd like to tell you more about Marigold, but the main point is he was an asshole. He was a very powerful asshole, and he's still around today. And I don't like him because he's a jerk. But back to Varsoon. We've been running around this place. I've just kind of been showing you the size of it. This is pretty much the front yard of the ruins of Varsoon. I'm sorry. It's not very big. It's kind of windy. Definitely windy, but rather small. I mean, here's a map. Ruins of Varsoon. Here we are, the ruins of Varsoon, the Chamber of Immortality. Okay, so we're in the second half. Oh no, they actually made the map bigger. It used to be a smaller map where it would automatically transition when you got to a certain point. This is where I came in. Here's where that spider was. Here's where I am. You can go this way from the beginning. There's some jail cells here, some jail cells here. This one has a halfling. This one has a couple of centaurs. They all come out to that room over here with the little raised platform with all the skeletons standing around. Some alchemist. I think that's where the alchemist is. This is not all that big. It's the beginning is windy, which is deceptive because it makes you feel like you're traveling more than you really are. See, now we've gone through that central area. Now we're going into the back area. This is where you run into like the wine cellar and stuff, the weaver's room, the tomes. There's also Varsoon also has 3 sorcerers. Well, not sorcerers. 3 undead magic users. I'm going to assume that they were his higher assistants. There is a sorcerer, an enchanter, and a summoner. But what about Varsoon himself? What more can we learn about this figure? I mean, he wasn't as powerful as Marigold, and he was no Alcabor, that's for sure. But he was still pretty powerful. Now we have this interesting room here, the Chamber of Immortality. Let's take a look at it. Gonna go inside. Hey, look, it's a Nixar. That's a Nixar female. You can tell by that. I mentioned they look more like snakes or frilled lizards. There's the frills right there. What I like about the female Ixars, when you go into combat mode, you're aggressive, the frills blow out. Because, they're mad at you. Interesting lore point about the Ixar. She's wearing leather in that little screen, and that's because the metal hurts their scales. It's another case of the lore disagreeing with the mechanics. You'd suffer no penalties whatsoever wearing metal armor as an Ixar. But in the beginning of the game's launch, they got a bonus to tailoring, and the little tooltip for that mentioned that was why they got the bonus for tailoring. They learned to stitch garments that didn't chafe and rub against their scales so much. So we're in this chamber here, and there's some dude standing there. I wonder who it is. Hey, look, it's Varsoon the Undying. Yeah, see, the thing about Varsoon is that his traveling the plains, well, like I said, something went wrong. His research of immortality went horribly, horribly wrong, and he's somehow trapped between the planes. He is on Norath right now. That is Varsoon. But it's not Varsoon at the same time. That's his, call it his soul anchor, if you will. What he's doing here is he's waiting for someone. He sent a message out, and someone's supposed to respond to the message. He doesn't realize how long it's been, so the person responding to the message is never going to. They're dead. But when I show up, he's like, oh, hey, my message is finally heeded, but hey, you'll do just as well. Kill him. Who are you talking to? Oh, you're talking to extraplanar aggressors. Now, if you look at them closely, let's take a look at him. Oh, I wonder what plane we could possibly be talking about. Let's look at that guy's body. I mean, he's a little black over there, so it's hard to see, but look at this guy. Get him side by side. Oh, yeah. Yeah, we've seen that phenomenon before. We just recently saw it. In fact, Misty just took you on a little tour of the Void. Yeah, he's trapped in the Void somewhere. But he's planning on taking over my body. Good luck with that, pal. And hopefully it will snap his link, and he'll be able to escape. So, yeah, let's kill these guys. Yeah, they're gray, so this isn't even remotely close to a challenge, but la la la! I'm a bard. I can kill people just by singing to them. See that? Boom. You want an encore performance, pal? And like all assholes, he just stands there. He needs our corporeal forms. Look at him, he's just standing there. He's such a badass, but he can't even do his own work. Typical manager material there. Let's get an opal scrying stone. Yeah, let's get some of that delicious loot. The vial of darkness. See, I cannot comprehend the situation here, but I've actually done a pretty good job of explaining it. You're trying to steal my body, asshole. Screw you. Here, I'll fire off yet another shot. Boom. I love that nice little kettle banging sound that sometimes I make. It's one of my special abilities. Just makes me think I'm hitting him in the face with a frying pan. Destroy them, he cries. Oh, there you are. An ethereal fiend. Doesn't look very ethereal to me.
No, I cannot return like this. I cannot go back in disgrace.
Uh-oh, I've just set the use time. Ah, here he is. Varsoon the Undying. Here, Varsoon, attack me, and I'll just stand here. He punched me in the face. Do you see that? He's punched me in the face. You will serve as my corporeal host, even if I must destroy you myself. Yeah. Something wrong with your logic there, dude. I'm not riposting very well, am I? It's okay, though. Let him cast his spells. I want him to feel like he's, making some sort of progress. See that? Oh, I reposted. Look at that repost. By repost, I mean I kind of just uprooted a 2x4 out of the ground and smacked him in the face. Excuse me, hiccups again. No, you will sever my only link to this plane. Yeah, he's a little frantic right here. Okay, you're gone. Okay, with that, Varsoon has lost his connection to Norath. Oh no, poor Varsoon. But his story's not done. For this video it is, however. He does play a bigger role than that, but this was actually a hint. I mentioned before I like the person that wrote the story for this, how he did a really good job. This was building for, what, the 5th expansion, I think it was? 5th or 6th anyways. So yeah, this was basically foreshadowing of a major storyline that we are working on, that we don't even know we're working on. It's pretty cool. It's like a little tidbit. Oh yeah, he'll be back. Spoilers, he'll soon be back and in greater numbers. So that's Varsoon. What's his name? Voldartis, I think? Voldartis Varsoon? Something to that general effect. Planar thaumaturge, necromancer, and all-around asshole. So, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.